Hey everyone, I am live in a spontaneous live. Today we're talking help, my Whippet is distracted. I thought I'd do a bit of a spontaneous live because I'm having one of those days where I'm actually feeling relatively almost healthy. You might have noticed I posted a few times just being a bit unwell. It's just the way things are rolling at the minute, unfortunately. So grabbing opportunities, I would prefer to schedule them, but you've got to go with the flow, as it were. So I thought I'd just do it feeling well, feeling spontaneously inspired. I want to talk to you about your Whippets and then being distracted by anything, everything. One of the biggest comments, themes in this group and in other places where I post is that the Whippet is easily distracted, whether that is by people or dogs, whether that is that they are jumping up or they are losing focus and they start to pull, or they're just a little bit starey, they're a little bit intense around things. Having a Whippet who is really easily distracted when they're out and about can be really frustrating because they spin, they jump, they lurch. They look really cute when they're doing it, which sometimes means people encourage it, especially if you have a Whippet who's really sociable and really friendly and you're trying to reduce their jumping up maybe, or trying to get them a bit more calm and, for lack of a better word, neutral. I'm not sure I like the word neutral. Please feel free to give me a better word. We often find that they're easily distracted. And as a breed, they should almost be easily distracted. It would be very unusual for a Whippet puppy or a sighthound puppy to be really focused in the face of novel changes in their environment. They are sort of bred to notice changes and be quite adept to reacting to them. That's why they make such good, historically they were made such good hunting dogs, and they're dogs who are bred to notice changes very quickly. Scents, sights, you name it, they're good at noticing it. So it is really common. So if you're joining, feel free to comment and join in. Let me know how old your Whippet is and how distracted they might be on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being not distracted, 100% focused on you. 10 being, oh my god, I'm at Disneyland. This is the best place of my life. I've forgotten there's someone on the end of me, which can definitely happen, I think. I've had one of those. This little boy here was a Disneyland dog. So we want to come up with some solutions for you. We want to come up with why they might be distracted, why sometimes our training might lack a little bit of depth to go into the real world, and how we can resolve that and get your training so it transfers from your living room to the real world. So again, common issues might be jumping up, pulling, getting really excited by things that are going on. When I'm talking about distractions, for today's purposes, I'm not talking about reactivity. So I'm not talking about barking or super levels of frustration or fear. I'm talking about just a dog being distracted, pulling, jumping, not looking at you, just sort of in a world of their own. I have a lot of lives on reactivity, which I can refer anyone to. So the biggest issues that we tend to find are that jumping up, pulling, etc. And very often what happens is that accidentally there's this sort of feedback loop that goes into this, in that our dog gets distracted and let's say they've seen, someone walking past, they think that looks like a potential friend, I'm going to start to notice them, start pulling, jumping a little bit, and then as they sort of get distracted and they start to do the wrong thing, what we often do as owners is we grab a treat and we do the really classic, hey, what's this? And we start showing them this treat and trying to get their focus onto this treat, and we've all done that, we all do it at some point, we're trying to get their attention. And sometimes that can work, probably not routinely, otherwise it would be really easy to deal with. But most of the time it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because what we're often doing is accidentally saying to our dog, we're not going to let you have fun. We are the barrier to fun. When I see you having fun, I'm going to try and take your attention away from that fun. And I'm not going to succeed because I know for many of you, you could have a steak in your hand, right? And you could be going, hey, look, it's a steak. And they're like, no, busy trying to win friends. I'm a sociable, outgoing dog and I want to get some fuss from this random guy who's probably not that interested. or someone in a white suit for some reason. I always try and get interested in the wrong kinds of people, I find, who don't want a dog jumping on them, essentially. But we start trying to be like, hey, you want to, it's almost desperation sometimes. We're like, you want this, you want me, you know you do. Take this treat, let's get out of here. And it's not so much training as a really good, but often desperate attempt to distract them. And distraction doesn't really teach them anything. Distraction just gets their focus away for a split second. It's not going to stop them next time wanting to do that thing, and it doesn't teach them any more value in you. And what can often happen is if we're doing that kind of thing, what happens is we actually reduce the value of the food reward we're trying to use, because they associate it with being in a distracted situation and ignoring food. So what we often accidentally do is actually teach them to ignore food in the presence of distractions, because the distraction is like a, level 100 they're super excited by, the food is maybe level 20 of interest, and they're never going to choose the food over the distraction in that scenario. So by offering it to them, they learn to ignore it, and then next time they're going to be more likely to ignore that. Hey, what's this? Do you want some chicken or cheese or whatever it is you're using? They're going to ignore it. So very often we are accidentally teaching them to ignore us in the presence of really exciting things. We're teaching them that we're a barrier to it, so we're a bit more frustrating, right? If you're watching TV, you're enjoying your TV show, someone just comes in and walks in front of your TV, this show that you've waited for ages for, you've been, fully captivated by, and they just come in at that moment and they're like, hey, so I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to stand in front of you, stop looking at the TV, I'm having a conversation with you. And you're like, what are you doing? I'm really annoyed by you right now. That's how they're going to feel. So we've got that problem of sometimes what we try and do is try and distract them with food, and sometimes we try and ask them to do a behaviour. So we might ask them to sit, or we might ask them to lay down, or a middle, or some sort of behaviour that we think they know really well, but they're not doing it in the presence of that exciting thing, which tells us that maybe they're not ready for that yet. So what can we do to change this? There's lots of things we can do. We want your dog to be able to engage with you around distractions. We don't aim for robot dogs in this group. I'm not into that kind of thing. I don't want you thinking you need like a dog in a military heel for your entire walk. I don't think anyone with a sighthound wants that. They might be looking for a different breed if they do. You want to retain that nice spirit. You don't want to break their spirit, but you just want a bit of a calmer walk where you can handle those distractions without feeling embarrassed, or without feeling like, people are going to make comments about your dog. You just want a nice walk with your dog. Who doesn't? So how can we change this? So one of my favourite things to recommend is just find a skill that your individual dog really likes. And it should be something they really enjoy. A lot of the time we teach a sit from puppyhood, and a lot of sighthounds aren't that keen on sit. It's a bit uncomfortable. It's a bit, it can be a lot of pressure on their spine. It can be, they don't always like sitting on the concrete, do they? Or the grass, or anything without a blanket. So we don't want a behaviour that relies on like a high level of comfortability, which you might not be able to achieve on your everyday walk. You want to find a behaviour your Whippet genuinely enjoys. For most of my Whippets, this is the touch game, or middle, or paws up. So touch is touching their nose to my hand, middle is standing between my legs, and paws up is putting 2 feet on an object. And I'm going to find this behaviour that they really enjoy by experimenting and seeing their enthusiasm when we play it and when we teach it. And what I'm going to do is go through 5 or 6 steps to get that from reliable in my home to reliable around distractions, so that it can get their attention and it can keep their focus, and it means that we avoid that distractibility factor without having to nag them, without having to pester them, without having to take out steak for them. We can get them to engage with us in a natural way. So level 1 is you're going to find that skill, you're going to teach it at home, you're going to make it fun. It's really important that we keep things fun for our Whippets, because it's very easy for them to get bored. We want to keep sessions short, around 2 to 5 minutes, the younger the shorter, or even just if they're not food motivated, very, very short sessions. We don't want them to be getting bored. We We're going to use good value treats. This is one of those things where some people are like, it doesn't matter what value treat you use, they should enjoy it. If I've got a dog who is distractible, they need to know it's valuable. They need to know it pays off to pay attention to me. If I want enthusiasm and I want motivation, I don't want to be getting that by having to hand feed them dry food to get them to want to play. I want them to play because it is associated with something fun for them. So for my dogs, that's often things like the JR Pets pate, small pieces of cheese, very small pieces of cheese, don't use a lot of cheese, small pieces of something soft, smelly, easy and quick to consume. And we're going to keep those sessions fun. So we're going to introduce, let's say, the touch game. We're going to play that at home, 2-minute bursts, a few times a day, when they're having fun. Make sure it's an enjoyable game. You can throw the treat away as a reward. We don't have to just give it to their mouth. We can make it an experience where they're chasing that treat and they're really, really enjoying it. So we're going to teach that foundation at home. And then as they're doing it at home, we might want to start to do it with some walking equipment on, like their harness, their lead, their collar, playing it in the home, playing it in the garden, and then low distraction places on your walks. What we often try and do is we jump from teaching that foundation skill at home and then trying to use it around the distraction on the walk, and it's much too big of a jump for our whippets, and that's where the distraction factor comes in that it's just too much of a leap. So we've got to start to build up these little experiences where they can do it, they are successful in small low distraction areas, and then build it up to those higher distraction situations. So you're going to find low level distraction areas to practice on your walk. And that's going to look different for all of you and your kind of walks. For me, we usually do them about 5 minutes into a walk. There's a little green space where we can practice, and we do a bit of training for 2 minutes. We do some touches, we do some engaging in the environment, some pause up, bit of fun, and that's where we practice. And we find 2 or 3 places like that we can practice on our walks where there's almost no distraction. And your dog's no distraction is going to look different. For us, he would be distracted by maybe the odd person or dogs. When he was younger, it was probably everything. He was a puppy. So we would use very quiet areas where there wasn't much foot traffic and there wasn't much going on. We often liked using car parks on brain fog, like supermarket car parks are really good for that kind of thing, when it's at quiet hours, or just general, like we've got like bed shops and whatnot on main roads where it's just an empty car park but at a distance to like a main road where people are passing. So we're going to step 2, find those low level areas to practice. You have to practice when there's nothing around. If you're only trying to get your dog's attention around distractions, it's not likely to work because they don't have that history of listening to you feels fun, it feels good, and I'm going to be able to transfer that. If we go from 0 to 100, they haven't got that ability. So we have to practice 2 or 3 places on a walk where there's not much going on. So we're going to play that touch game. I'm going to keep saying touch for the sake of ease, around no distractions on our walks. We're going to maybe do that for a week or so, and then we're going to start to find some places where they maybe engage a bit better, where there are peripheral vision of distractions, but they can handle it. So we might go to a slightly busier area. We might try where there's passing people or dogs at 10 meters, let's say, and we're going to deliberately spend 2 to 5 minutes practicing that touch game, making sure that it's fun, it's engaging, and they can do that with you, which might sound unachievable right now, but if you've built it up from those lower distraction areas, we should be like heading in that direction. And then we might do that for a while. And when we're sort of deciding distraction level, we're going to be looking at what is they visually distracted by, what are they distracted by audibly, and scent as well. So I know for some of you your distraction might look more like prey, so it might be that you need to be practicing in places where there isn't much scent around, and then you start layering in areas of scent so that they can listen around the scent of animals. So it might be you start in like a hardcore supermarket car park where there's no scent for training, and you gradually build that up to like grass terrain, and then terrain where you know that rabbits have been, or you know that deer have been, for example. You do need to think about what is it that my dog is individually distracted by, and how can I have some level of distance initially from that so that my dog can listen, and I can build up those listening skills to then transfer them to those high excitement, high distractible situations. So we've done low level to no level distractions, we've done varied distractions, and we're going to start to build that up, whether again that's distance from it, sound of it, or the type of terrain, until we're at the point where it's maybe been a few weeks at least, and we're able to start to put that into practice around those high distraction situations. And I love the touch game personally because it's so easy. I'm walking past someone, my puppy or my dog notices them, I ask them to touch, they're going to orient back to me. They're going to do that touch, they're going to get that treat, and then they're going to get that treat, and we can go back to some lead walking, or we can do a couple of touches, and we can keep the animation with us. But the really important part is you just cannot go from your living room to that high distraction area. You've got to be very careful with your sight hounds as well, that you can't nag them relentlessly where they're not able to listen yet. If they're really struggling with listening, we have to find an environment they can listen in. So it's a bit frustrating, but if we're constantly nagging at them, they're just learning to ignore us. Their learning training isn't fun and it isn't engaging. So we have to sort of be, on our walk scoping out, where can my dog pay attention? One of the things I do quite a lot with Arkle is, I'm very lucky, he's very much an adult dog now. He still has his odd quirks because of all of his medical issues and life. But if he's had, quite a long walk, he's getting a bit like, well, I've sniffed a lot, he'll often just check in. And he'll be like, so what are we doing? And it's in those moments of check-ins I go, great, let's do some stuff. Let's do some touches, some downs, some spins, some twists, whatever it might be. But I catch him in that moment where he is engaged, rather than spend the whole walk trying to nag at him. He will listen if I ask him, he's an adult dog, but if I had tried to nag him continuously, it wouldn't work. So take it slow and make sure you are building up that 1 or 2 foundation behaviours that you feel will benefit you around distractions, and you practice them very regularly, building up those distractions from low level up to higher level. It does take some time, but anything worth having takes time. Try and avoid those common mistakes of jumping from living room to high distraction, and make sure you are building up lots of places and areas at a pace your Whippet or your sight hound can handle to practice those skills. Try not to nag them. Try and make sure you're using appropriate values of reward. I don't want to work like, £1 million job for a quid. If it's a high distraction area, I might need higher value treats. And I very often have a hierarchy of high value treats around big distractions, lower value treats around lower distractions. So that was my spontaneous live. It's very spontaneous. I can't see any comments, but Facebook does this to me quite a lot. So I might just grab the laptop and make sure, because sometimes I feel like I'm being really rude and I'm like, right, well, there's no questions, so I'm going to go now. And then I come onto the laptop and I discover that actually you've all asked a load of questions and I look really, 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 really rude. So I'm just going to really quickly check into that and just check if there are any questions. These sessions are always recorded, so you can watch this back later, and it will also be on... No, I've left my laptop in a state I can't use. Oh goodness, no, I can't use it like that. Hang on. That's fixed it. It will also be uploaded to YouTube, so that you can look at it there. If you're watching it back later, you can ask any questions later, and I will give you feedback on those questions. I'm just double checking if I got on. Oh, that's okay. There's no comments. That's all right then. I don't like feeling like I've left anything out of the way. So, bit of a spontaneous live. Might do a few more of those over the next few weeks while some meds are working for me and my health. If there's anything you would like to see, just get in touch. You can work with me privately with coaching for you and your Whippet. I do one-to-one sessions. I've got the school for Whippets. There is a lot available, and I will tag that up in the comments. What I'll probably do is download this, then upload it, so it is in the guides with a bit of text summary as well. But thank you for those of you that joined and watched. If you're watching it later, do feel free to comment, give me a shout, ask me any questions. I hope you're all having a lovely weekend, and thanks for joining. Bye!